Hi, everyone. This is John Daly. I'm here again with Bernie Goldberg for another episode of the No BS Zone. How's it going today, Bernie?
I'm really looking forward to this session today, John, because it's a topic that I find, at least for me, is really important.
Yeah. Today we're going to talk about the topic that you explored a bit in your Monday column. Your piece was about liberal journalism in the era of Trump. And here's one line that you wrote that I thought was interesting. Too many journalists think that their job is to take down Donald Trump. They convince themselves that it's not simply because they hate the guy, but it's for a noble cause, as in what's best for America and the American people. And you list a number of examples of that, Bernie. Do you want to go ahead and talk about that a bit?
Yeah, I want to make clear at the jump, you don't have to like Donald Trump. And as many of you out there know, I don't. You don't have to think he's fit for the office of the President of the United States. Again, as many of you know, I don't think he's fit for the office. And you could think those things and also think that there are times when, as you just said, John, reading from my column, that the media thinks that its job is to bring him down. That's not the role of the media, to bring him down. Report all the things he says, report all the things he does. You'll have enough ammunition if you don't like Donald Trump, if you just report that. But I'll give you a few examples of when they went too far. At the beginning, they ran with the Russian collusion story. That really was fake news, but they ran with it and they paralyzed his presidency because they were always answering questions about whether he was a mole working for the Kremlin or was simply a useful idiot that they were exploiting. That was not a true story, but they ran with it for several years. The Charlottesville example, they keep, even now, they're saying he said there were good people on both sides, referring to the neo-Nazis and the other side. Well, that's not what he said. I read very carefully the whole speech that he gave that day, or the whole answer he gave that day. He said there are good people on both sides, referring to the people who wanted to take the statue of Robert E. Lee down and the ones who wanted it to stay in the town square. That's not neo-Nazis on one side and good people on the other. All you had to do was read his words, and yet they went after him on that. Most recently, a rally in Ohio, he said there would be a bloodbath if the auto industry, well, how do I phrase this? He said he wanted to impose tariffs on foreign imports because if he didn't, the domestic auto industry would be wrecked by foreign imports. It clearly was an example of an economic bloodbath. And yet one headline after another, NBC, CBS, The Guardian, just one headline after another. Donald Trump predicts bloodbath if he loses in November. That's not what he said. Now, let me end the segment with what I said at the beginning. You don't have to like Donald Trump. I don't, to believe that the media isn't playing fair with him at times. Just report what he does and says. He does enough and says enough stupid things that you don't need to go overboard and try to fool the American people with these examples of bloodbath and good people on both sides and, Russian hoax story. You don't have to do that. And why do they do that? Why? I believe it's because they think their role is to bring down Donald Trump, and that is not their role.
Yeah, in regard to the bloodbath example, the same thing that you just described is striking to me too. When it comes to Trump, there is a good number, as you said, of genuine examples of Trump saying and doing outrageous things, and even, in my view, potentially dangerous things. So the media doesn't have to take liberties like this in order to present the narrative that at times Trump plays with fire, even that in some cases he inspires violence. Yet people in the media, they play this game, and I think it does condition news consumers to perhaps overlook the serious stuff when you're crying wolf like this. Do you sort of agree with that, Bernie?
Yeah, and a very smart liberal friend of mine wrote to me and said something to the effect of, you conveniently left out that in that same speech in Ohio, he talked about the Patriots and of January 6th and all that, all that nonsense. I did leave it out. I didn't leave it out to stack the deck. I left it out because that's not what we're talking about.
Right.
We're talking about the media running headlines. Now I understand they run headlines because that's how they make money. If you click on the headline, the news organization gets more money than if you don't click on the headline. But that doesn't give them the liberty, to use your word, to say that he's predicting a bloodbath if he loses in November. That's just not right. And I don't find actually, in case people are wondering, I don't find myself in a funny position defending Donald Trump. I'm not defending Donald Trump, who wants to be president. I'm arguing against liberals in the media who don't understand what their role is. And I think they intentionally do this. There are a lot of good reporters out there, and they could have found the Russian hoax story to be a fake news a lot earlier. The bloodbath story was right there before their eyes. The Charlottesville story, come on. I saw either a news conference or whatever the forum was, where he said, I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis, the skinheads. I'm talking about the people who want to take down the statue and the people who don't want to take down the statue. You don't have to be an ace reporter to figure this out. So why do they make the mistake? Seriously, it doesn't take an investigative reporter to figure. These things are right before their eyes, and yet they get it wrong. And I think they get it wrong intentionally.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes it's intentionally. I think sometimes because of the bias certain people have, they hear things they probably want to hear rather than what was actually said. They see bloodbath, they see that as a trigger word, and yeah, I think they're ignoring the context. And I don't. It's hard because you listed a number of reports about this particular incident. I don't know if all of them were done on purpose, but I think probably some of them were. But yeah, it's hard to say.
The story itself, I'm sure, talked about the auto industry, okay? But the headline, the thing that gets you into the tent, the thing that you click on and they make money on, flat out said, Donald Trump predicts bloodbath if he loses in November. That's not right. That's not right.
Right. I did want to explore just a little bit one point you made in the column, and I think you believe you did in your last week's off the cuff as well, about the bloodbath comment. You called Trump's use of that term ill-advised and just plain stupid. But
Yeah.
I totally understand that, but I don't think I see that as him being stupid. I think he loves throwing out provocative terms and provocative rhetoric like that. Like when he talked about, illegal immigrants, the poisoning the blood of our country. I think he does it not because he hasn't thought it through. I think he has thought it through, and I think he does it because he knows it will get a media reaction, and Trump loves getting media reactions. Do you think there's any truth to that, Bernie?
Well, let me answer it this way. Yes, it does get a media reaction, but you know what it also does? It may very well turn away the only people who haven't made up their minds in the election, the independents, especially in key battleground states. So if they read a headline, Donald Trump predicts bloodbath if he loses in November, you think a moderate who might vote for him because they think Joe Biden is unfit also for different reasons, you think that helps? You think that helps them? Now, You may be right. He may be doing it because he loves media attention and he loves stirring it up. But does he want to win or not? If he wants to win, I mean, seriously, if he
Right.
wants to win, he has to win the independents in key battleground states. Alabama, we know Alabama is going for Donald Trump no matter what. We know New York and California and Illinois are going for Biden no matter what. It's the key swing states. There are 7 or 8 of them, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Nevada, North Carolina, Georgia. He needs to win those states if he wants to win the election. And I don't know that bloodbath is a good way to win over moderate voters. I don't think it is, by the way.
Right. Yeah, the one in I won't spend too much time on this. You mentioned how your liberal friend brought up the point about, him vowing to issue pardons to the J6 criminals, people that are in prison. I think that's so politically toxic that I can't imagine that resounds with any independent voter or any undecided voter, I should say.
Exactly. So you tell me, John. I think you're right. I think every syllable you just said is correct. So why does he do it? He can't help himself, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, people say that he's sort of a president for his base when he was president, and not so much for America.
Exactly. He's already won. Don, if you're listening, this just in. You've already won the MAGA base. You could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and you won't lose them, okay? Why are you running, saying crazy ass things that appeal to the MAGA base? Well, why are you doing that? You need to say things, and I'm not giving him advice to win an election. I'm just making an observation. He needs to say things that win over swing voters, people who vote in a Democrat 1 year, 4 years later vote Republican, 4 years after that vote Democrat, and appealing to the MAGA base, which you don't have to do. You've won them. They love you. They adore you. Forget them. Forget them entirely. If you want to win, you have to go after those moderate voters, and saying the people who stormed the Capitol on January 6th were heroes and patriots, his word patriots. And I believe he said he's going to pardon them on day 1 or something.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. That's correct.
So the MAGA base goes, right on, Donald, right on. You're my man. They would have said that no matter what he said. They would have said that. It doesn't matter what he says. They're with him. And he's appealing to them. I'm going to use the word I used before, and you could tell me I'm wrong again. That's just plain stupid.
True. Definitely. So, also in your column, Bernie, you brought up some of the civil and criminal cases against Donald Trump. You specifically focused on the New York ones. You argued in the piece, and I believe effectively that while that Trump may indeed be guilty of what he's been accused of or been charged with, he's being treated unfairly or unevenly by the New York legal system, and the liberal media doesn't seem to care so much about that part of the story. Did I describe your position correctly?
Yes, not only does the liberal media, but liberals in general. That's an important point. Liberals in general and the media, liberals in particular. There's one case, this is why I wanted to do today's segment. The one case that's currently, we're recording this on Monday.
Right.
This is the deadline today for what Letitia James, the Attorney General, might do or might not do regarding Donald Trump's property. And I find this so outrageous that I wanted to talk about it. Here's my point. Donald Trump was found guilty of inflating the property values of his real estate. Let's assume he did that. Let's assume he's guilty. Guilty as sin. You know what? Nobody lost any money on it. You know what else? And I don't know how many people know this. Nobody filed a complaint against him. They were perfectly happy taking his money and his paying interest on the loan. Nobody got hurt financially and nobody complained except Letitia James, the Attorney General, who ran on a campaign. She should be disbarred for this. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know if you can be disbarred for this, but I think she should. She ran on a campaign repeatedly saying she was out to get Donald Trump. And then she did. So here's my point. Let's turn the tables. Let's imagine this is not a progressive DA in Manhattan, where Joe Biden won 85% of the vote in 2020. Not irrelevant. Let's say this were a conservative attorney general in a ruby red state. Pick your favorite: Alabama, Idaho, Nebraska, I don't care. Any of those states. And this ruby red, this conservative in a ruby red state, filed charges against a liberal politician who was running for president. And the judge fined him almost $500 million. Liberals rightly would be outraged. Outraged. How could you? They'd say, what are you talking about? This is some crazy conservative thing. How could you find a guy $500 million, 460 some odd million to be precise? How could you find a guy that much money when nobody lost money on his deals because he inflated the price of his real estate and nobody complained? Nobody complained. They would be, the New York Times would be running page one stories every day and editorials every day. They'd be blaming Donald Trump for it. You know, they compare him to Hitler all over again. Because it's outrageous if an attorney general in Alabama, a conservative attorney general, went after a liberal politician who the attorney general said she was out to get. This is so clear-cut wrong that there should be outrage in the liberal media, and there should be outrage in the general liberal population of the United States. There isn't any. There isn't any. That's what I find really troubling. Really troubling. And that's, again, why I wanted to do this segment. That is wrong.
Yeah, when I look at the all the legal cases against Trump, I actually think the ones in the other parts of the country are both legitimate and even appropriate. But like you, I look at the ones, and these are separate ones in New York, of course. It's not that I don't think Trump did what he's being accused of in each of them. I think he probably did do what he's been found liable for and what he's been charged with. But the problem, as you say, is that he is being treated in a way that other people in his position would not be treated, whether it comes, in the form of changing some rule in order to prosecute him, or issuing an excessive fine or a judgment, or ignoring type of legal discretion that would normally prevent a prosecutor from moving forward with such charges. And I think what's going on, like you said, the media is acting in a way, behaving in a way, I'm sure there are some exceptions, but in the grand scheme of things, they don't really seem to think that's that big of a deal. They think that, I think they just are happy in large part with seeing Trump getting what they see as his due.
Exactly.
I think, though, because of all what we're talking about, I don't know how much that sinks into the general public, because the liberal media, the mainstream media.
I think it does sink into the general public. Let me give you one more example, and then I'll tell you why I think it sinks into the general public.
Sure.
A jury in Manhattan, again, where Joe Biden. So the jury pool is made up of people in a city, not in a city, in a borough, Manhattan, where 85% of the voters voted for Joe Biden. Okay, not irrelevant, as I say. They found him guilty of defaming a woman. He was found guilty of sexually assaulting decades ago. Okay. Now, this was a fine about what he said, not what he did. That was already adjudicated. What was the fine? $83 million. if she's worth 83 million, let's assume, by the way, every word he said was wrong, was factually incorrect. $83 million. If she deserves $83 million, I deserve 200 million because of what liberals said about me after my first book Bias came out. I'm serious about that, by the way.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So it's so outrageous, like 83 million. Let's turn the tables one more time. A jury, not in Manhattan, but a jury in a state where Trump overwhelmingly won the election. And it's a conservative jury. And it's a conservative jury who finds a liberal politician guilty of defaming a woman. Possible, right? And they find the liberal politician who's running for president, $83 million. What do you think the reaction would be in the press? They wouldn't just yawn, which is what they're doing now. I mean,
that's true.
all I'm trying to say in all of this is that this isn't fair. And even Donald Trump, again, who I don't like because of his character, deserves better. Now, you said you don't know if this is sinking into the general population. I think there's irony in all of this. And the irony is liberals in the media and liberals in general may actually help Donald Trump win election in November. And I think that because, again, regular people, I mean this in the best sense, ordinary Americans, that's not a shot, ordinary Americans in the best sense of the word. Ordinary Americans look at this, I think, including those independents in the swing states, and they say, $83 million because he said some things that weren't true, $464 million because he inflated the price of his real estate when nobody complained and nobody got hurt. I think ordinary Americans have a sense of fair play, and I think this could win them over to Donald Trump. On the one hand, you got his crazy language about bloodbath and all that, and his provocative, needlessly provocative language that may hurt him with independence. On the other hand, liberals they're helping him. If you disagree, I'd love to hear it. But liberals are.
My point was, as far as whether it's sinking down, I sometimes wonder just how, you and I follow the news pretty closely, so we're pretty informed on this sort of stuff. But I wonder what the regular person, the person out there who doesn't really pay much attention to the news, do they even hear, how big the fine is against Trump? Do they hear how big the judgment is? Do they even know the details of these cases? That's what I sort of wonder about, because it's one thing I found sort of interesting. I've seen a number of other center right political commentators make this point too. But I go out and I hang out with friends of mine, people I've known for a long time who aren't as politically engaged. And up till like a month or two ago, I had people that were telling me, the Republicans aren't really gonna choose Trump again, right? There's just no way that's gonna happen. And I'm like, I've been writing, and they don't read any much of political commentary, including mine, but they this should have been apparent for a long time that he was the heavy front runner, to win the nomination. And they're just completely out of it. And I think a lot of it has to do with what he talked about in the last No BS Zone, Bernie. This politics have gotten so ridiculous that people are just wanting to tune out and not pay attention. So that's what I mean. I just don't know if people know the details of this, if people, if this is going to persuade people because they're kind of, consciously avoiding news. So yeah, I just don't know how much of an effect that's going to have on the electorate.
I think you're right about the first part, where I've spoken to people, and I mentioned something that's clearly in the news, and they say, "No, what? I didn't know that." So here's my question. So I agree with you on that, but here's my question: what are they going to base their vote on if they don't pay attention to anything? And I'm not sure you're right about that, but they must know something. They must know something about Donald Trump and Joe Biden. They must know that Joe Biden is not just old, but arguably too old to be president again for 4 years. They must know that if he doesn't make it for 4 years, we're going to have President Kamala Harris. They must know Donald Trump has a big, stupid mouth. They must know that. And I think because it's in the mainstream media, not just cable TV, which is obsessed with Donald Trump on both sides of the ideological line. I think because the mainstream media is covering this $460 some odd million judgment against Trump, that they must know something, yes, because I'll get back to my question. What do they base their vote on?
I think we used to call them, I don't know if that was Rush Limbaugh that coined that term, low information voters.
Yeah, that makes sense to
yeah,
some degree.
I mean, right. And I think even to low information voters, the things that hurt Biden the most are when they do see him, how he comes across as old and kind of off in the wilderness at times. I think inflation, obviously things are still quite a bit, the prices are higher than people want them to be. I think with Trump, they're familiar with him from 4 years. I don't know sometimes how much sinks in to what he's been saying lately. The January 6th stuff that we talked about earlier. I don't know if low information voters even know what he's been saying about that. It's tough because it's most of the people we talk with are informed. Everybody who's a subscriber obviously is informed because they're interested in what we're talking about, what you're saying. So, but the average voter, yeah, it's hard to gauge. I just don't know how much they're paying attention to what's getting through and what's not.
Well, let me get back to my original point. Whether they're informed or not, journalists are informed. They know what's going on. Liberals writ large know what's going on, because I'll tell you something, and I have liberal friends. If you mention 3 names, they go into a convulsion. Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and Ron DeSantis. I don't get it. I mean, Donald Trump, okay. But they have a visceral reaction. So liberals know what's going on. They know about the 83 million and the 464 million judgment. And I think it's what you said earlier. They don't care because they think anything the system can do to bring him down is fine with them. What they don't understand is if you could do this to Donald Trump, you could do this to somebody else. They do like. What about that? I mean, how dumb do you have to be not to figure that one out?
Right.
I'm not saying all my liberal friends are dumb. The one I mentioned is super smart. But a lot of liberals, just as a lot of conservatives, don't want to hear anything bad about Donald Trump and don't believe anything bad about Donald Trump. Liberals only want to hear they know that Joe Biden shouldn't be the candidate. They know that. Every poll tells us that. But they think Donald Trump is the real danger. And they say to me, okay, they're both unfit. I wish both of them weren't running, but surely you're going to vote for Joe Biden, right? No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm going to sit this one out as I did the one in 2016, 2020, and now 2024. And I tell them one other thing. If you have a problem with that, don't say I'm unpatriotic and all that BS. Take it up with Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Take it up with the people who made them the nominees. Don't leave me alone. Leave me alone.
Right.
Once more. Case, leave me alone.
Yeah, it's interesting. Just I'll add one thing on, and then we'll wrap it up. One of the biggest criticisms of Trump, both as a candidate and as a president, was that he would violate norms. And what we're seeing in these New York cases is the violation of norms. And I think people were right when they said that about Trump, and I think we're right when we say that about what's going on in these cases in New York and how the media is covering it. So I wish people would. I'm a fan of single standards, and I wish people would.
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. One standard. because otherwise you don't have principles. You're rooting for the guy wearing the blue uniform or the red uniform. That's not based on principle. That's based on just pure partisanship. Now, I find both of them, so I'm not gonna get out of my chair and go vote for either one of those two clowns. And I wonder, as I've wondered out loud on this forum before, 335 million Americans, I don't know what percentage of them are over 35 and born in the United States, but it's got to be like 250 million at least. We wind up with these two. What the hell is going on? And I'll bet you a lot of people listening to us are nodding their heads in agreement. How do we wind up with these two clowns in a country of so many people and so many competent people?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and we've written a little bit about it in the past, but yeah, it's not great. It's not a great situation at all. Well, that's probably a good place to end things. Bernie, is there anything else you'd want to throw in this week?
I probably shouldn't say what I'm going to say, but all of you out there, you're fans of us, we're fans of you, because this is, I'm not just saying this, this is one of, if not the smartest audience on these kinds of forums. I mean, really smart people. But you're not doing your job convincing even one other person to sign up. We need a broader base. We need to get this word out to more people. I don't care if they agree with me or not. I don't care. I'm not trying to convince anybody that I'm right and they're wrong. But I've said, tell a friend, and you're not doing it. You're not, come on. Come on. I do all this research for you. I get up early to I could be sleeping now. And I need you to give a gift to some liberal you don't like. I mean, drive them nuts. Give a gift to a conservative you do like. But come on, am I asking too much? John, am I asking too much?
No, the more the merrier. We want to be able to reach people we currently haven't been reaching. So yeah, definitely tell your friends, gift subscriptions to your friends. We do get signups. We do get people leaving. We get, but we always want to have more people involved in this discussion.
Yeah, if I say something about Donald Trump that a Donald Trump fan doesn't like and they unsubscribe, that's fine. It's a free country. Bye-bye. I mean, I don't care. And I made a point here just seconds ago that's important to me anyway. I'm not trying to convince anybody that I'm right. I don't care if they take my side or not. I don't care. I just want to say what I think, and they could agree with me or not agree with me. The difference between what we're doing and what cable news is doing, they always say things the audience likes, whether it's the CNN and MSNBC on one side or Fox on the other side. They don't want to offend their viewers, because if they do, they might leave and, who knows, go to Newsmax or something, or OAN. You want to leave because you disagree with me? I think that's silly, but you're right. I'm not trying to win. I'm never going to say something because I think it's going to get us more subscribers. I'm not going to do that. People come to us because I think because they know we give them an honest version of what we believe is the truth. If we're wrong, we're wrong. But I don't think that's a reason to leave. But if they do, okay.
Yeah. I mean, if people want their biases and their inclinations validated, this isn't the place to come. We're not going to always tell you what you want to hear. We're going to tell you what we think you should hear, what we believe. That's it's an uphill battle in this media industry, the current political media that we're in now. But we're not going to change. I mean, we're going to be telling you what we believe, basing our analysis on facts. So that's what you're going to get if you subscribe.
And that's why our loyal subscribers are with us, because they think what you just said is what an information website should be. and yet Fox has a much bigger audience than we do. So does CNN.
Just a little bit.
Even CNN has a bigger audience.
Yeah, that's right.
Because
That's right. Yeah, you got to get us up to CNN level, folks. Yeah, at least. Right.
Because they figured out what the best model for doing business is. Pander to the audience.
That's right.
And what
That's
they want
right.
to hear. Never tell them something they don't want to hear because they might get angry at you. I don't want people to get angry at you or me, but we're just going to tell them what we believe. That's it. That's what our subscribers get. And our subscribers who are with us right now, as I say, are among the smartest audience online. I truly believe that, except we need more. Come on. Like I said, I've done stuff for you. Do something for us, okay? Come on, please.
That's right. That's right. Show us some love, folks. But we do appreciate all you current subscribers, of course. We always, like Bernie says, we get some great questions every week for the Q&A. That's how we know that you guys are smart. So thanks again, everyone, and thank you, Bernie. Hope you have a great day.
Thank you, John. Take it easy. Enjoy the rest of the day.